Bang, there we go, live. We're live and we're alive, unlike Liz Truss's career. Um, yeah, should we get stuck into that right off the bat? I mean, we, we are. I know we're communicating to an international audience here, but we are based in the UK, and things have been getting hairy for us as of late. Like everyone's either dying or getting fired, or leaving the country.
Yep, just gonna be us three left, I think, soon, and we'll all have been prime minister for a period as well.
I say fucking sign me up. If they're looking for somebody, they say they're gonna have someone ready in the next week. I'm good to go. I'm ready to take up that mantle of responsibility. I reckon I could last 45 days.
Yeah, 45. That'd be yeah.
Wouldn't be the
I mean,
worst.
it's getting like the thick of it. You know, they're gonna literally have characters. The actors from the thick of it will become prime minister at some point.
They could
Like
do,
Peter Capaldi will be the next prime minister.
or the other way around. You know, like what was his name, Rudy or whatever from Generation Kill? Like he played himself. Like you could have Liz
Yeah,
Truss like playing herself in the
in the next
upcoming.
thick of it. Yeah. Oh, because yeah,
Why not?
I mean, I'm hearing rumors that Boris Johnson may run again, or I mean, they've got like 3 days, haven't they? So they're gonna have to speed run this. They speed run her out. She
Yep.
speed runs out. They speed run back in.
I
Well,
put
it's breakneck politics. I like it. It's immediate.
it's a lot more exciting than the kind of slow paced like there's a budget coming up in a few months or in next year. With this, they were like Jeremy Hunt rolls out. He's like, "Yeah, we got a new budget. We're announcing everything ahead of time, and now we're going to eject Liz Truss, and now we're going to bring somebody in." It's like it's like TikTok politics. It's like swipe, swipe. I like that. Swipe. I hate this. Swipe.
Yeah,
So you
very
can't
immediate.
yeah, you can't say they're being boring. You can't say they're not providing. They're providing us content. They're providing everyone entertainment. Yes, it does mean that this already basically dead husk of a country is going to rot 5 times quicker because of all of these things. But I don't really. I've kind of resigned myself to that fate. Like I don't view this as a cohesive nation anymore. I view this as just like a territory of land with a system of highly corrupt like bureaucratic layers stacked on top of it that's really being held together. I don't know by what anymore. Basically, like the taxation of the middle class is what holds this whole thing together because nobody on the bottom can afford to even pay like for basic things anymore, like gas. And no one on top has been paying for years, so it's already fucked, and there's no way of fixing that really without like some kind of major, well, you could say without some kind of major collapse, or I'm not going to say, yeah, I mean, no, not an uprising. Uprisings are terrible. No, that would be awful if something like that. We do not want to see scenes like January 6th happening in the UK. That would be just awful. I would hate that so much. So no, but it is gonna, but we need like some kind of major shakeup, and they're not gonna. That major shakeup is not coming in the next 3 days. So we may as well enjoy what we can. We may as well enjoy the show. I say bring Bojo back.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, like I say, we have this. The country's rotting, and if we are on this terminal path, can we have like a funny rot? Let's just make the whole
Yeah.
thing fun. Can the country collapse in a sort of fun way, where like it's painful, but we can sort of have that sort of dark humor, gallows humor, sort of laugh about it. Why not? Because it does. I'm convinced that it doesn't actually matter what's going on in the government. The government to me is just kind of like a big play that we have that the country's all tuned into. Like when everyone was watching Game of Thrones, the government's kind of like a fixture of entertainment now, I guess. And so they've tried this season. They tried the Diet Cola sort of situation, and what the new cola, sorry, and they didn't like it, so they undo it, retcon. Who cares? Star Wars, whatever. Change the storyline. New storyline, new characters going to come in. Balance patch, characters nerfed, characters buffed, politicians replaced. This guy's been banned because he's too powerful. This guy was crap, and now he's been made too powerful. It's just the same sort of shit everywhere, and yeah, as long as we get to sort of have a chuckle about it and go, oh, hey, I'll never own a house anyway. I'll never be able to do what I wanted, so I may as well combust in this sort of humorous way, and we can all have a laugh as we circle the toilet and go down to hell. There you go. That's the situation. That's the future.
Yeah, and Merry Christmas, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, and happy Halloween
Yeah,
also.
happy Halloween, Merry. Hey, Guy Fawkes Night's going to be really interesting. That's
Hmm.
going to be real. I think we're going to see a lot of protests and upheavals around that date.
But for what?
Well, like discontent in the leadership and the structures that run this country. I think a lot of people, no matter who gets selected, whether it's Bojo coming back, somebody else, everyone's going to be upset and angry. Everyone's going to be saying we need a general. Even you've seen it all over the Twitter. Keir Starmer saying we need to have a new election, general election, and every single Scottish person is rising up and saying, "See, this is why we need to also have another Scottish indie ref 9, whatever number they're on now." So it's like whatever happens, everyone's just beyond pissed off, upset, and just fully distrust the system. So I think that this festival that we do every year where it's like, hey, let's burn effigies of this guy who like really hated the people in charge so much that he was going to blow them all up, and we're going to celebrate that as a good thing. I think that's going to quite possibly this time round be
We need a reverse bonfire night where people
that's
rush towards bonfires with fire extinguishers and no, get him back, stick him back together. How did you do it? Well, how did you almost get? You almost blew it all up. How did you do it?
yeah,
Tell us.
like we regret burning you.
Yeah,
Sorry,
sorry.
sorry about burning you for like 500 years straight. We need you to come back.
Yeah, and if he does, he'll be like, well, what I did is I hung around underneath Parliament with the explosives, but I mean, I only got that far. I don't know how to go any. I got killed, didn't I? So you're on your own, really.
Yeah,
I don't think there'll be protests. I think that the protests you might see will be the usual crowd of people talking very loudly and nothing, and they're ignored. And then there'll be lots of paintings with soup thrown at them again, and a statue
yeah,
might be put
a,
into a big box
a bunch of
because it was a
psyops,
racist.
basically, a bunch of psyops. It's
Yeah,
like it's not real. These people are just being paid to create the illusion of like,
that's your protest.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Well, we've
it's
all
like how executions used to be a public thing. Like you go see the hanging today because it's boring. It's Sunday. We're gonna have that sort of thing. Like, I'm going to see the psyop. What's the psyop? It's a big terrorist attack. That don't worry, it's not real. I mean, you could be killed, but just watch. Some shit's gonna happen. And what the best thing is that when you go home and watch it on the news, it'll be totally different to what you saw with your own eyes. That's the beauty of it. So you get entertained twice.
really we're living in a content renaissance. Then we're living in a
Yeah,
UK content renaissance. We're doing everything we can to entertain the people and the world, and it's working. So yeah, I think Bojo should come back. Either like no, what would be funnier than Bojo coming back is they find a woman who's even more irrelevant and incompetent than Liz Truss. Like they need to find like and they go through the diversity hoops every single time. So it's like they always have a short list of people who are BAME and people who are women and whatnot. Like, can we find that one Conservative Party member who's like a crippled woman who's from I don't know, Iran or something, who also is bisexual, and just throw them in the mix? I think that would genuinely be funnier than Bojo taking the reins again.
Bojo needs to come out as a woman, and
Okay,
he'll
there it
get it.
is, and there it is.
Grows
That's
his
it.
hair out. His hair goes instead of being like this, it comes down. He combs it down, and now he's a woman. He's Mrs. Boris Johnson, and she's the next prime minister. That's three
Could,
female prime
could
ministers we
he
consider.
could he come out with those? That teacher in America had like the giant prosthetic tits.
Yeah, you could
Like,
do that.
could
Yeah,
he
why not?
rock out with like quadruple D tits, wig, really awful tacky makeup, and just be like, yeah, I'm Mrs. Johnson. Like, yeah, because then everyone can say, look, it's not Boris Johnson coming back. He's a new woman, so to speak. Like,
Yeah.
it's fresh, it's new. First trans prime minister. I mean, that would be the funniest fucking thing. Okay,
Why not?
why not? And
Yeah.
why not? And it might actually, and honestly, it might actually be like a good idea. Just from
Well,
I mean, like you can imagine their like Bojo's camp thinking like, how do we soften the blow? Like how do we like what kind of shielding can we use to protect ourselves from the blowback? And saying, hey, like trans people, that's the most protected class in Western civilization right now. So adopting that persona, you instantly become like impervious to like 95% of any attacks anybody could throw at you. And then it would generate like a huge like public controversy would be fucking massive after that. Everyone would be debating it. Is he legit? Is he real? Turfs going to war with fucking everybody. It'd be amazing.
That'd be great because whilst all that arguing's going on, they can continue with their managed decline of the country.
Yeah, and selling weapons to the Middle East and you know, making and sending money and support to Ukraine, thus in turn making our lives terrible. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Well, keep your eyes open because I mean they've only got 3 days. I'm sure it takes less. That's like sure, like GTA speedruns take about the same amount of time, don't they? They take this like 17 hours. I mean, to do like well, I guess to do all of them, they're big games.
Should we?
So
You know,
yeah,
well, you know that whole like Liz Truss versus Aledis. Should we?
yeah,
Do,
she lost. Yeah,
should we do like can we speedrun GTA 5 quicker than than it takes for them to to get someone in power?
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you've only got 3 days. Yeah,
We got to get to
it's
it as soon as the stream ends. Let's get GTA booted up. Let's go.
if it was a compendium like all of the GTA's,
Now that
it would
yeah
actually be really close.
yeah that'd be
Because
difficult.
yeah, it does take hours and hours to do. There's some speedruns that take like 300 hours. You know, like these JRPGs and stuff. So, yeah, there's some. She's definitely set a record. She has set a record by a factor of like two because the prime minister with the second shortest term in office was like 120 days, and he died. That's why he had to sort of end being prime minister. Um, I'm pretty sure that in the thick of it, doesn't like Nicola Murray last like 4 days as leader of the opposition.
No, she's in power for like most of her time in power is off camera between the two
She,
seasons. So she's in power for like I think it's like a good year or two because I
she's
remember.
still the prime minister though. She's the leader of the opposition, isn't she?
Oh yeah, she never becomes the prime minister. Yeah, she's just leader.
So I mean, it's kind of like we are living through the thick of it. I wonder. I mean, there's a film about Boris Johnson that's just come out, or a series, isn't it? It's a series on Sky or something with
Yeah,
what's his fucking name? That guy, the guy who did like who was in Dunkirk, and he's like a
Tom
famous.
Hardy.
Well, no, he could. We'll call him Tom Hardy though. He's playing Boris Johnson, and he looks like a melted, deformed Boris Johnson. He's got the mannerisms down, but he doesn't look like they've tried their best. They've made him look as dishevelled as possible.
Yeah,
Well, the story isn't over. You know, they're going to have to do. It's like, yeah, they'll continue it for like Westworld. It'll continue way beyond its welcome.
yeah, they're probably going
The
like
Boris
fuck
Johnson
yeah, we're
show.
about to get season 2.
Yeah.
Bring your melty face back in.
But I mean, yeah, like the thick of it. What are they taking that as notes and saying, right, this is the story? Wait, what happened in season 3 of the thick of it? Oh, yeah, this happened. Right, well, I guess we'll do that then as a part of government policy. What did they do? What would they do in the thick of it? Oh, they backstab and betray. And, oh, we may as well do that. I saw that on the BBC. So yeah, because it's unbelievable. It's a joke. But you know, at least as long as you can laugh as the ship goes down. Yeah, there are some people playing like instruments as the Titanic went down, and I bet you when they were playing, they were like, "I'm gonna make this a belter. I'm gonna do the best like solo I've ever done because I may as well." And so this is the same sort of thing. Like we may as well. What's the funniest way to go out? Or on the flip side, they're thinking that TV show about Boris Johnson's airing. How can I have my own TV show? I know. I'll make a fucking disaster that's like crazy and off the wall. Let's do crazy shit for 45 days and then I'll quit and I'll
Yeah,
be famous.
if you just do a good job, no one's gonna you know people. It's like
Get
how
boring.
it's like John Major and fucking Spitting Image. They just painted him grey because it's like yeah, you're just sort of a standard issue bloke. We don't care about you, so yeah, you've got to do something insane, or no one's gonna care. No one's gonna buy your autobiography. No one's gonna watch the movie. It's kind of like yeah, like Cameron didn't have a chance to shine because he kind of executed himself with the whole Brexit thing, and thus like no one. But he didn't do anything of any real note or interest, so no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a little bit like cyclical in terms of yeah, life does imitate art. Art does have an effect on life. Like I watched a video from you know Professor Edward Dutton. You know, hello, and he was talking about how like yeah these procedures that we have, these things that have been set up in politics, especially in the a Conservative Party about having to shortlist people of the right, age, gender, race, etc., etc. It's like if you're selecting based on those characteristics, you're not selecting the best. And they're doing that like party wide. It's not just for the leadership, it's like MPs and council members and everything. And they've been doing this for easily a good 5-10 years. And so we have now hit a point where all of those bad decisions are coming to fruit. Like why are we looking at this party? And to be fair, it's the same with the Labour Party. It's pretty much they're all doing the same thing. Why are we looking at the entire political landscape and saying like, where are all the good candidates? And it's like they got filtered out because the people who did get chosen were chosen because this person's a woman, or this person's black, or this person's Asian. This will help us. We need to have the right ratio. We need to have the right mix of groups of people. And if you make that bad decision making enough times, you'll suddenly have a big fucking room full of people who aren't really qualified for the job. They turned up because they happen to be the right shade of color. And so who do you now select from? So
I think also a lot of the experienced politicians. I think a lot of people get pigeonholed and put out to pasture, so they're sort of stuck there, and that's where they'll be until they retire. There are a lot of politicians who could do a good job, but they sort of, I think, know that they're better off where they are than in the top job because of this sort of shit. They'll become a public laughing stock if they become the prime minister. It's kind of like how no one wanted to be the minister for what was it? What's the Dosak?
Yeah,
It's like that
Dosak.
job.
Yeah.
Prime minister is now Dosak. Yeah, so I kind of see it as that. I'm just thinking like it's like the country is like a big old game of Dwarf Fortress now. It's going to disastrously explode. How long can you keep it going until eventually like one of the MPs goes crazy with an axe and like starts attacking the other politicians whilst like, a cat starts to part of the tunnel collapse or whatever. It's like a story of Dwarf Fortress. It's going to end badly. That's what we're sort of in right now. We're at the final stage of the big Dwarf Fortress story that is the United Kingdom. But there's always a new game afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I say we need to give an animal a chance at a prime minister. Like all those towns in America, like California, Minnesota.
I say
they had dogs for mayors.
Go one step further, make the fucking lettuce. The lettuce lasted longer, so make the lettuce the fucking why why not?
Yeah,
The lettuce is still around.
How about we put everything up to like literally everything up to a massive vote? Just have an app that everyone can click yes or no on. And whenever some question comes along, like, should we give bombs to Ukraine or Russia? Who do we support? Everyone can just press a button. I vote Ukraine, I vote Russia, and whichever one wins, let's embrace democracy and just put everything up to a democratic vote. Why not just do that?
I mean, isn't that how Brexit happened?
That was a referendum, yeah. So
just keep doing that with everything.
I mean, we should. I do think that the party political system doesn't really work anymore. It's just red team versus blue team. It's the illusion of being involved in you vote, but it doesn't account for anything. Whether which area of the country you're in, if it's a red or blue team area, you're sort of shafted anyway. I mean, it's the trickiest of thinking that you're part of involved in the steering of the country. You'd have to find like 10,000 other people exactly the same as you to have any influence. But even then, I don't think it ever filters through to the governments. So I think that we should just have a British government, and there you use an app or something, and you would vote like a corporation to remove individuals or to keep individuals or to nominate people for these positions. So the Minister for Health or whatever, if you know someone's really good, you could nominate them, and if that convinces other people, like just looking at their CV, but treat the public like shareholders, I guess, and say we want to appoint this person to be Minister for Health. Here's their track record. It's not just some random person appointed because they're chums with the Prime Minister who got in because they backstabbed the previous Prime Minister who was voted for by the public. It's kind of like direct democracy, I guess. You'd be like, I don't like this guy. I don't think we should have him, but we should not change the rest of the government to get him out. So can we replace these people? I don't know. I think there's a better way, and it's probably going to take us 55 years to get there, and we'll probably never get there because as soon as that happens, like Stalin will return or something.
Well, I mean, maybe. I'd certainly like to see political parties basically being disbanded and have, essentially, you have MPs, you have people who represent you, and you have a leadership, and you have somebody who puts himself up to be, elected to be the prime minister, but not to have the party based system, so that you're not basically squished. Like you and I are pretty much always squished onto like we're squished onto like, oh, you're conservatives, then you'd vote conservative, and it's like, I mean, no, not really. I guess a lot of our views kind of lean us over in that direction, but that party doesn't represent really anything that I stand for or believe in. And it's the same, most of the people we know in the game dev industry and whatnot, most of the people we associate with are all in the Labour camp. Not because they necessarily want to, but just because they hold some kind of vague approximation of their views. If you got rid of that, then you could have like your front bench would be made up of a cast of characters who actually represent what is best for the country. I mean, that's the ideal. But I just think the party system, like I saw one of the MPs earlier talking about this, and he was talking about how this is a disaster for the party, and he kept talking about how it's bad for the party, and it's just like, go fuck yourself. Like you don't even hear yourself saying, like, we're watching you talking about how your allegiance to the party is stronger than the country, that you should be putting country first, but they never do.
The only time that people are mentioned is when Labour talks about how we have to consult the people, so we'll have a general election. But it's transparently just so that they can be put into power. The people are basically just like used to step on their shoulders to get into power. People are never, yeah, it's an issue for the party, not the country, not the fact that all this crap's going to result in, you're going to have to spend more on everything, and your mortgage payments are going to go through the roof, and your life's going to become measurably worse. Never mentioning that. It's a disaster for the party. Who gives a fuck about the Conservative Party? Who cares? I don't care. Do you think about the Conservative Party? When this happened, you weren't like, oh God, the Conservative Party, it's a mess right now. What if we were to burn down an entire town full of British people? Would that help? Please, anything to help the Conservative Party. No one cares about who cares about parties. It's about the country, right? The people of the country. And it's as if the people of the country they're just very far away. That's the way that the Parliament seems to think. Like, don't worry about them; they're far away. Yes, there's millions of them, but what really matters is like the Conservative Party, which is like what 200 people uh, in Westminster or Whitehall or whatever. That's the people that matter.
Yeah, and they know, and we are far away because we can't touch them. Like we don't have. I mean, one, we don't even have any kind of free speech laws in the country, so you can't even say anything in vaguely aggressive or threatening. Not necessarily. Even if you're not intending like physical threats, you can't say like, I fucking hate this person, because immediately it's like, oh, you're a target. Oh, that's dangerous. That's and we've got tons of laws, actually, like anti-free speech laws tied into like the terrorist acts and shit, to make sure that nobody can stringently talk like openly and how they actually believe about the political system. So it's like, good luck saying what you actually think. And also they've got all the guns, so even if you did try and do something, they'll just kill you. So there is no. Oh, and also, what was the and they passed that act last year about like unlawful assembly and whatnot in the middle of the COVID shit, where it's like, yeah, basically trying to like ban protests and ban. I don't know if I didn't fully get through, but it just shows you that's where their heads are at. It's like,
well, it works in China.
Yeah,
it's worked in China.
They're making themselves this completely protected class. So you can't really say or do anything that's gonna apply any kind of like soft pressure from the outside. I mean, not to be. I mean, this is getting pretty black-pilled at this point. I would say that the hopeful like route would be getting people getting involved in politics who actually care, and basically just infiltrating the system, keeping on the DL. And it's like, this is going to take years, but clearly, like what's happening right now, like if guys like Edward Dutton are right, and we're facing like the fruits of of the labor of bad decisions being made for the past 10, 15 years across the political spectrum. It's like, right, at some point people are going to become so disenfranchised and pissed off that will break, it will snap, and there will be a vacuum then left for new people to swoop in and take over and say, hey, we're gonna try this thing called like meritocracy. We're gonna try like putting the right people in charge, who actually like not only want to do the job but feel it's their duty, and they didn't just rock up there because they're a woman or because they're whatever. So
the thing is, though, is that that won't work, because the people who really run the show, they will block those people who are. They will. the reason that we're in this situation is because the people who really run the show want like avatars and stand-ins and vicarious. They want to govern vicariously, so they want someone like Liz Truss who doesn't really stand for anything. She might say whatever. She believes in growth. I mean, these ridiculous. I believe in the opposite of growth. I believe in, I believe in. Who's going to these ridiculous, meaningless sort of phrases they come up with because they don't believe in anything other than their own career, their own reputation, and their own desires. And therefore they can be manipulated very easily by the people who do run the show. So the meritocracy, it will be blocked. You'll get someone who's really good, and everyone will say he's really good, and then suddenly there'll be a car accident or something, and he's dead, or there'll be some sort of scandal or whatever, and he'll be reputation destroyed. Whoops, a daisy! Now we got to get the idiot in. Oh, the idiots. The media loves the idiot, but everything's getting worse. Why is everything getting worse? It's because the idiot's just doing what they're told, and they're told to manage the country's decline so that a new consensus can be arrived at and a new world can be constructed.
Are you saying that there's people in power who don't want you to know that they're in power and they'll do everything they can to silence anyone talking about that?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's how it's always been, basically.
Hey, that reminds me. Let's talk about Kanye. No, let's not do that. Let's not do that. That's going way too close to the sun.
I've never heard any of his music.
I
never heard any of his music.
I became a Kanye fan this year. Like earlier this year, I just started listening to his music and I was like, oh shit, this is great. Like I listened to a bit a few years ago and I was like, this is okay. And I really got into, I picked the best fucking year to ever get into Kanye West ever. Like I'm 110% behind him. It's like, yeah, fucking like, again, we live in a world full of fucking liars. And here we've got like one of the richest media personalities basically ever saying exactly what he says on his mind and not letting anybody stop him from saying what he believes. And the entire system is trying to shut him down and saying, don't speak the truth. Don't speak your truth. It's not even saying proof positive, like, yes, this is all objectively true, but it's don't be honest. Be as dishonest as possible. And then we wonder, why are all of our leaders dishonest? Why does everybody lie constantly? And it's because if you say what's actually on your mind, you get stamped out. So I do kind of agree that, yeah, even if you have people who are free thinkers, people who do actually want to uncover the truth, their ability to get into power is just completely hampered because it's not in the best interests of anyone, not just the people on top, but like most, as they say in the Matrix, like most people are not ready to be woken up and they'll fight to defend the system. It's like if you tell people if you tell people real truths, like horrifying, gritty truths, they just recoil and shut down. That's always been my experience.
Yeah, I mean, most people just want to have a quiet life, and I don't think we talked about this last time. We have not evolved for this world that we're building, and so people are sort of retreating into their bubbles, their gilded cage, provincial. Like, we all think we're global citizens. We all think we're in tune with the news and we know what's going on because we read someone's Twitter on the other side of the planet. But what we're really trying to construct is like our own little fantasy land that makes us feel better about ourselves. And that's why I'll buy a certain Funko Pop because that represents me, that sort of thing. Because that makes me feel like I have something in common with this Funko Pop representation of a character from a show that I like, because I'm kind of like that, and that means that there's some sort of kinship, and I am a human after all, because there's this plastic representation with a large head of a character that I identify with. So I am a human after all. That's how I'm checking in with the human race, because we've become so alien to what a human being originally was that we have to use these ridiculous measures. And as part of that, the new world uses methods and techniques that have been researched probably with billions and trillions of dollars since like the Second World War ended, to construct this new society where it's just too much to process and figure it all out. And we haven't been evolved for this sort of stuff. So what I'm driving at is yeah, basically most people switch off because that's like an instinctive response. Like the brain never developed the need to switch on with this subject. I just want to Netflix and chill. I just want to buy more Funko Pops. I want to make sure that I'm not going to die of starvation. So I'm going to order a Domino's pizza. That's what people will think about. As soon as you start talking about the way off abstract stuff, it's too abstract, and so people are just like, well, okay, yeah, whatever. What new Funko Pops are coming out? because that's what makes me feel better, and I'll feel bad if there's no new Funko Pops. That's how. So that's like the bubble that people construct, and it's been deliberately designed that way as well. You know, like people didn't naturally fall into this new world forces you to live that way. You know, it makes you feel depressed, and then it'll sell you antidepressants.
Getting majorly black pilled up in this.
I'm not black pilled. I mean, I'm optimistic. I think that I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit fatalistic. I don't know. I think things are fine. I think that the world feels crazy because each of us are sort of becoming more aware of how things are,
Yeah,
and
I
so
guess it's easier to see. I mean, this shit's been going on. There's always crazy shit going on. It's just we're so much more aware of it now, and we are living in like an absolute age of fear of saying and doing the right or wrong thing. And so you know, previously where you would just have like an opinion or view on something, now it's like, well, I might get destroyed for not saying the right thing, so I'll just go with whatever the status quo, whatever the major sources of whatever state and media improved, I'll just go with that. But hopefully, I mean, I guess what we're doing with Enemy Team, like basically saying fuck off to the industry, we're not going to go along with the flow anymore, we're going to go in the polar opposite direction and do what we want. That's just because we hit a breaking point really a good couple of years ago, and then last year it became like a physical reality. Just a breaking point of like, we can't stand this any longer. Like, the straw really did break the camel's back for us. And so the hope is that there are people like us in all sorts of different fields and mediums, that there are people like I was watching stuff about scientists talking about the response to COVID and how, you know, they wrote this letter saying, look, everything that we're doing across the West to respond to this is crazy and bad. I mean, they all got labeled as complete fringe nut jobs by like Fauci and whatnot. And it's like, but they still stood up. They put their names to paper and signed that document and went out on a limb. You know, we're going on out on a limb with ET. There are people in political circles, you know, trying to do stuff that is different. So the hope is that there's just a fraction of a percent of people like us who say, yeah, we're going to take on like a risk profile that goes beyond what anybody else is willing to even entertain, and we're just going to go in our own direction, and hopefully that leads to, you know, what would you call it, like, well, first hopefully you get support from the ground up for doing that, and if that works, maybe that means you've got some power, and if you've got some power, you can start shifting the Overton window or start enacting changes on whatever the system is that you're trying to affect, you know, gradually. And it takes time, like, because we have no, like, we're under no illusions, like, we're not gonna, Enemy Team's not gonna be like the biggest thing ever tomorrow, but we're gonna work on it every day so that in, you know, 6 months, 12 months, 24, 10 years, etc., that we continue to grow and that we continue to become like more independent, and that we can in turn also help other people. So that's my kind of like, you know, for this country, I don't know. Like, I have no fucking hope for the nation, but I think it's not going to be necessarily about the nation. It's going to be about kind of more tribalistically surviving within the nation and finding people who can align with you, who are going to support, like building support networks. I mean, we already have a ton of people in the country doing it. It's just that the majority right now, like, you know, people like us, we don't. And we just need to learn. We need to learn from these smaller groups. Like, how is it that you cohesively stick together? How is it that you protect yourself? How is it that you're so small and yet you are able to enact such a huge amount of power on the system? Or at least protect yourself when the system decides to do some real goofy shit. And I think if we can do that, then there's absolutely a way forwards. But, you know, yeah, I ain't going down with the ship. I'm not going down with the Tory party or the Labour Party. You know,
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Fuck that. Fuck them.
I mean, you laugh, stand on the sidelines, and jeer as they all go down. I mean, yeah, don't be blackpilled. Like, I'm not blackpilled at all by all this. I just see it as, you know, history is full of these sorts of times of change, and, you know, things sometimes change for the worse, sometimes change for the better. But you just have to think about, it's kind of weird. I went back to the point about the sort of provincial state of mind that we are more adapted to. You know, the bubble that we are building for ourselves. It's you could perceive that as a bad thing, and then a lot of times people do end up in a bad situation in that sort of little world that they make for themselves, the delusions they put themselves through. But you can you can sort of take control of that and decide, I'm going to not do this anymore. I'm not going to listen to this thing anymore. I'm not going to do hang around with these people anymore. You can sort of shift your own Overton window, and you can say, look, this is terrible. It is terrible, but I'm not going to let it make me feel terrible. I'm going to feel better than I've ever felt because I've done this, and I think that's like a very important aspect of it, and that's very important to surviving anything that's difficult. If you fight in a war and you let the gravity of the situation really overwhelm you, you'll be a nervous wreck and you'll feel terrible. But if you just go along with it and say, okay, whatever, this is what it is, I'm just going to come out the other end alive. I've never been through a war, so I don't know. But my point is basically, don't let these things demoralize you and focus on the immediate things, like the simple stuff that you do have control over. Like, I don't know, random example. If you've always wanted to take up gardening and grow a garden because you'll have control over your garden. Eventually, one day the government might come in and stomp all over your flowers, but you had the garden during that time, and you made the most of it while it lasted. And yeah, they stomped all over your garden, but it took them a while at least to do that. There's no point. I don't see the point in being black-pilled because that's not to go back to evolution. It's not a good evolutionary strategy. If you saw like a lion being like, "Oh man, it's just over. I'm just going to sit here and not do anything," that lion's not going to continue its bloodline. It's the lions who fight and try to spread their genes and whatever do what lions do, basically behave like lions do. Um, those are the ones that continue. So you don't ever be black-pilled by anything. Anything like
I'm
it's
gonna
easy to say, but
I'm gonna get out there and start spreading my genes. That's what I'm gonna hit the town right now tonight.
yeah.
Start gene. I call it gene spreading.
But I think what I'm trying to say is something like, if you read something on the news and you go, "Oh, that sucks. My day's been ruined." Well, why? Like, could your day have been better if you didn't read the news? You could say, well, if I don't read the news, I'll be an ignoramus. I would be not up to speed on the latest happenings. But then my question to you is, why do you need to be up to speed on all the latest happening? Are you involved in the government? Are you involved in those decisions? Are you involved in that news? Can you just ignore it and just focus on, I don't know, the people around you or the things going on in your own life? Because you have more control over that sort of stuff. So there's no point in letting things on the other side of the planet make you miserable.
Yeah, and I get this is like the essence of stoicism is outcome independence and whatnot, and not allowing the external world or the results of things that you have either directly done or things have done to you to determine how it is that you're going to behave next. That should always come from within. I saw like Andrew Tate talking about that recently, where he's like, guys these days talk so much about doing things because of how they feel. Like I'm not motivated. I don't feel motivated enough to go to the gym, or I don't feel like doing this today, or feel like working. And it's like, well, that's like a temporary state of affairs. In the same way that yesterday we had a prime minister and today we don't. It's all temporary. What really matters is, well, what is your plan? What are your goals? What are you striving towards? And yes, like, political, national, geopolitical happenings do affect your ability to do things. I mean, shit, we're running on extreme low, we're on like low power mode financially, and we've just had like 10% of that wiped out with inflation. So it's like these things do affect us, but it's like, okay, we've still, it doesn't really actually change the situation that we're in. We're still wanting to move forwards and build a business that makes games and other kinds of products. So yeah, we'll adapt and survive and keep going and stay positive.
Yeah, it's very important to stay positive. It sounds useless to say stuff like that, especially if people are going through difficult times. But if Bruce Lee said defeat strikes from within. You have to sort of accept defeat. And if I hadn't turned the news on, my day would have been exactly the same, other than we wouldn't be laughing about like a lettuce lasting longer than the prime minister.
Yeah.
So in some respects, this has nothing. It barely involves my life at all. I'm just worried about building the game. That's all I worry about. I'm sure you could argue, but roundabout way, the trend line for the country, and you're going to end up destitute at 50. Yeah, okay, but I can't sit here fretting over that now because it's just so out beyond the provincial bubble of my world. So yeah, I don't think being blackpilled is ever a good thing. It's good to take the truth on board and yeah, swallow the difficult pills and say, okay, this is shit, but I accept it. But you should always feel better for accepting harsh truths and coming to terms with them, and having an open mind to do that. That's always something to take pride in.
Yeah, something I always do that I think helps is making sure not to put all my eggs into one basket when it comes to planning things and when it comes to looking forward into the future, stuff like that. So say if there's something, let's say you buy a lottery ticket and you desperately you need to win the lottery, like you want to win the lottery. I find if I put all my eggs into one basket and I start planning ahead for winning the lottery, and then obviously it doesn't go through. It's like, oh shit, now I feel like crap. But if I plan ahead for both scenarios, if I'm like, oh, if I do win the lottery, that'd be great, fantastic. If I don't, then I'll try again, or I'll do something else, like try something else. Like extreme example, but stuff similar to that. Like even if it's like 90% chance that something will happen, but there's also a 10% chance it won't. Like let's say like it rains when you're planning to have a wedding or something. I always look to both scenarios and make sure that I'm okay with both. And if I'm not okay with one, then plan around and try and make sure either it doesn't happen, or if it does happen, then I have something in place that will make it not as bad.
Yeah, it's outcome independence. So if either way it's win-win, or if at the very worst it's like the no skin off your nose, okay, this bad thing happened, but whatever, it wasn't as bad as the other thing that was going to happen, and vice versa. Yeah, that's always good. You are fortunate if you're able to find yourself often in that position. Sometimes there are things in life that you do need to happen in a certain way, and when they don't, it's very frustrating. But I don't know. It's always difficult to sort of. There's no one size fits all answer to this sort of thing. But I guess my main point is just don't be demoralized by these sorts of things, because if the mainstream media existed back in like medieval times, we'd be sitting in a field going, "Oh shit, have you heard what's happened in like Constantinople? I can't believe it. I just feel miserable." You
Yeah,
know?
imagine hearing like, the Muslims have taken over like southern Spain and Portugal. You'd be like, holy shit.
Yeah, you'd be like, "Oh my god, that's it. That's it now. I'm going to top myself. I'm going to throw myself off a cliff because of something that's happened." No, the peasants were perfectly fine. They're probably happier on average than the average citizen these days, because they weren't bombarded constantly. Like again, going back to the point that we haven't evolved for this world we're living in, bombarded constantly by the mainstream media and by every angle, your phone, your television, your computer, the radio, constantly being bombarded with what to think and how to behave and what sort of person you should be. Medieval peasants didn't have that. They just, lost. Well, they worked a lot, probably had a lot of hardships, but they those are the sort of hardships that we have evolved to deal with, not constant psyops.
Yeah, and it keeps you focused as well. Like, when I'm, the simulation for that is exercising, and I try to. Obviously, I've been doing a lot this over the past year, and it's like, I'm up at 6:30 pretty much every morning now, like running, or I'm going to the gym and doing my sessions, and it's like it's very hard to get like caught up in the world and like caught up in my own head when I'm trying to like I'm trying to hit a PB with a fucking dumbbell press or something, or I'm doing like we start doing more leg days, and it's like I'm doing leg extensions, and every single time I'm doing them, I'm breaking a PB. I'm not thinking about Ukraine. I'm not thinking about Liz Truss. It sweeps all that stuff out of your head, and I think like the lack of like real work a lot of people have, but the lack of physicality involved in that work as well. It lets your mind sit and then wander and start to anxiously chip away at these things. It's like even if you do a 9 to 5, most people who 9 to 5, whether you're driving in a car or going on the Metrolink or the train or whatever, you're sat down just waiting for shit to happen. And in that time, you're just thinking about everything else, and you try and drown it out with music or a podcast. But the podcast is probably talking about all the horrible shit that's happening in the world as well. And it's like,
We are.
oh yeah, yeah. This is why we need to switch to the more reaction based fun shit. Like, yeah, okay. Next episode, we switch to that. But I it was fun talking about Boris Johnson's giant transgender tits. I like that. That was funny. So more of
That's
that,
going to happen next episode,
and that's gonna
and then we'll
happen.
be back on politics.
Yeah,
That's the
but
problem with politics; it's all pervasive.
but yeah. So like you need to like physicality needs to be reintroduced into people's lives in a big way, because that I found to be like a massive mental health like healer. is just being active, like having muscle mass again, like not being skinny fat, but also like always having something to like get up in the morning and do, or to go out at lunch and do my PT sessions, like and short, mid, long term goals to work towards, or like knowing that I've got to prepare food and all this kind of stuff, and that it's all working towards like positive goals. This is stuff that literally every human being for like all of existence just did as a natural part of their life, and it's consuming a huge part of my life, but in like a really good way. And it's like, is it like a coincidence that in this period of like extreme political and media and financial corruption, we also have like the most obese, most mentally ill, like most ill, NHS under strain, like just a population of people who just seem fucked. And it's like, well, what is the thing? What makes those people? What makes us today as a people different from the people going through like the Black Plague? Something which was arguably 10 times worse. And it's like, we don't pick turnips for fucking 8 hours a day. We don't have to lift things. We don't have to think about eating enough, meat just to be strong enough to be able to pick up that wheelbarrow. Like, almost none of us have to deal with that shit.
Imagine now you take that peasant and you give them cheap McDonald's food, sugary drinks, energy drinks, and then bombard them constantly with depressing, demoralizing media and news, and streaming films, escapism in the form of Netflix or whatever.
Yeah, they'd be like, take me back to the Black Death. Like, if you gave them a choice, what would you rather face? Black Death? Oh man, now that's a fucking black pill. We're basically saying, what would be a better existence? Living for maybe 9 years and then dying as a poor, like, Slavic peasant in the height of the Black Death, the plague, or just being like just being a standard issue 9-to-5 worker today. And it's like, yeah, I'd take that lifestyle over what most people deal with today any day of the fucking week. Like, I went back to the. Do you remember I worked at a garden center for a while? I went back to it. We were driving past and we were like, yeah, let's stop in. We need to go to a garden center. And it's like, it was kind of nostalgic in a fun way, like seeing the old horn. But I was like, thank fuck I'm not doing this anymore. Like, if I had to stand around, if I was still standing around selling guinea pigs to unappreciative idiots who will just kill them within months and then come back and buy more, which is what every that's a whole rabbit hole that's a whole rabbit hole we can go down, as like the entire pet world. I'd love to talk about that at some point, because it is like the pet veterinary world is a nightmare. But it's like, yeah, that was killing me, just standing around selling people hamsters, facing birdseed. I was destroying my mind. And what would I go home to? Like, subpar video games and, political turmoil in the news. It's been no different than how it was 10 years ago. It's just been continuation of the same shit. And it's like, and then when I go to, when I do get to do, like, I've been doing gardening recently, when I just spend 8-9 hours in my garden just churning up ground, de-weeding, or going out kayaking or whatever, it's like, oh, suddenly I really enjoy life again. And it's like, well, what's the difference? I'm being physical and I'm away from all of these like negative stresses. So like, yeah, we've got to. I mean, that's obviously a big part of what we want to do with Enemy Team as well, is like show people that there is a better way of living life. Like, you can't, play video games, like enjoy entertainment, but don't get sucked into it to the point where you become like a skinny, fat, anxious, destroyed mess like everybody else. And also, let's not make games that encourage that. Let's not make stuff that's predatory, that encourages you to throw your entire fucking life away.
Or to throw all your money, basically be a casino, we want to obviously make games that are entertaining, and you do need things to distract you, because from the day-to-day mundane crap like people face, that's unavoidable. You bad day at work, come home, you're looking forward to doing something good. So hopefully the games we make is one of those things that you look forward to and you play it. We don't want to do what I believe a lot of the AAA studios want to do, which is essentially to entrap you in this world where you, like a drug pusher, you want to play the game and have fun because your day's crap or whatever. Here's the game that they've made, meticulously designed, and it's a masterpiece of craftsmanship. It's a beautiful game to look at, plays very well, but you've got to spend more money, which you don't have because your job's not very good, or you're hard up for any reason, but they don't care. They want to just bleed you dry.
Yeah, like in the past, game companies would hire psychologists, to get a better idea of how to make the game more fun, more engaging, and to keep people playing. Now they get hired to figure out how to get the most money from their players,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
monetization designers and stuff specializing in like how can we get people. Yeah, we've talked about this in the past because we were trying to pitch, the whole Smashpoint situation. How could we monetize that as a service? Well, that was one of the original ideas, right? And we were talking about how can you. We wanted people to buy stuff at a certain rhythm where we weren't bleeding them dry. So every month you might buy something from the game, but there will be games studios that will be like, how can we get someone to buy something every 2 hours? So every 2 hours we hit them with a discount, and every 2 hours we show them this item, or every week we say, here's a new thing, and you don't have it, so you don't have 99%, and that will get the ADHD people to buy it because they want to have 100%.
Yeah,
It's
like I was saying,
manipulative.
watching Darktide and seeing how at the end of every single match they're going to show you stood there in that stupid potato burlap sack, looking like a complete fucking idiot, and it's like, and they're going to linger on that so that when you're paired up in a lobby with somebody who's got a, crazy golden armor or whatever, you're going to feel like an idiot, and you're going to have that subconscious like psychological pressure of like, okay, I need to go out and buy that thing, and no doubt the game will constantly be saying, by the way, you've unlocked the golden, you've unlocked what he has, you just haven't spent the 2,500 Warhammer credos to get access to it. So, it's sat there. We're waiting for you when you're ready to give us more money. And, and I find that disgusting. Whereas, yeah, our approach is like, look, if we're running like a live game and we need to take in money, year on year in order to keep supporting it, okay, that's going to have to come from the consumer. That's going to have to come from the player. But can we like communicate to them like, look, we're going to put out DLC, we're going to put out content. You're not going to be spending any more than, whatever it is, 20, 30, 40 quid a year, whatever we need in order to be able to sustain the business and to sustain that product and keep growing it. And just, and that's what the cap will be. There won't be any capacity to spend, 100k in our game. And the ratio is not going to be like we're seeing in Overwatch 2, like 20 quid or $20 for, a skin and a hat. It's not going to be like that because that's not best for the gamers. That's not putting the gamer first. That's putting, shareholders first. That's putting founders first. Whoever's got stock in the company, they're thinking, oh, this will drive up the share price. That's not. And yes, you do, as a business, you have a fiduciary duty, of course, but does that mean you have to fuck over your consumer base? No.
Well, the fiduciary duty is kind of an odd one to me. Obviously, it makes sense that there is a duty, but like, if you just why don't you just suddenly all your employees now you're going to get rob banks? We're giving all the employees guns, rob banks because we need to get money, right? And mug people because we need money right now. So you have a fiduciary duty to raise money by any, the company has to make money. That's my duty. I'm going to go and rob that old lady. Here, I've made a tenner. I'm fulfilling my fiduciary duty. Oh, wait, you want me to do it using scruples and actually adhere to the company's voice and do what the company was supposed to do and sell products? Oh, like, yeah. So there's these ideas of just we have to make money at any cost, and it doesn't matter the damage we do, and it doesn't matter the long term. It's just the short term, the fiscal year, the quarters. It does damage a lot of goodwill and long term trajectories for games. Games are just going to get worse and worse if this sort of mindset continues, which it will do. It'll continue for a long time until potentially a crash. Until people are like, the games are so terrible these days. We had that with ET back in the 80s, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there is like, pragmatically, there is a benefit to that happening to us because we are positioning ourselves like we're never going to do that. We're always going to put gamers first. And so if there is a massive crash and people are going, there's no good multiplayer games to play because they're all shit or these companies going out of business, it's like, great. Like I was saying with the political stuff, power vacuum. So it doesn't necessarily pay in the short term to behave like we do. In fact, it absolutely doesn't, because we know that we could go and raise a load of money if we compromised. It'd be very easy for us to raise a lot of money and to build up a big team, whether it's doing work for hire or saying we're going to make, mobile games. It would be piss. I mean, hell, we're coming up on the hour mark. I wanted to talk about Netflix games. Maybe we'll save it for the next one. because they're talking about ramping things up, and they've built a new studio, and they've brought in one of the guys who worked on Overwatch to start. I'll just quote what was the interesting quote. They want to help reinvent what games can be.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, okay. It's like we could be part of that. We could be signing up and contacting them and saying, "Hey, we'd love to be part of the Netflix games family," or going and working on Sea of Thieves or anything like this, and being downstream of big pots of money. Sure, we could go do that and produce subpar content, but make a lot of money. That pays right now. It's not, as you say, but it's not going to pay forever, because we are seeing the mass discontent with Overwatch 2, Battlefront crashing and burning. I saw an article earlier where it was like, this Halo Infinite December update, winter update, may be a good reason to come back and play, and it's like,
Maybe.
yeah, maybe, but probably not. But probably not. Like 98% likely to be not. So, it's going to this crash is going to happen, and all of these people clambering, most of our peers clambering over themselves to eke out whatever money's left and whatever opportunities left. It's like it's a loser's game. You're not, like, it makes me think of like The Big Short, like those two estate agent dudes who are like predatory. The guy's giving out ninja loans, and it's like, yeah, you're making loads of money today. You are going to be applying for Subway tomorrow. That's inevitable, because this hustle, it is a fucking grift. This industry is jam packed with grifters, and that's not working anymore. The wheels are coming off the wagon. So
Well, I mean, if you are someone who's devoid of any creative ability and passion for games, how do you succeed in the games industry? You have to fleece the market and come up with microtransactions and things like that. Essentially, take unscrupulous money-making methods from the gambling industry and then sell them to kids. So that, I mean, I think it's, I'm sure I heard this on like a stream, but like insults like default character, like that's an insult that I've heard, and
Yeah.
I think it's great, but it's also tragic. Like, it's tragic because it means that the psychologists will have won, and they will have been like, if you have a default character, you must be a loser. You must be you must have no money. You must be poor. I mean, it's only £2 to buy the John Wick skin or whatever it is, and you'd be like, well, okay, I better buy the John Wick skin because otherwise all the kids at school will think I'm a default character. And I don't want that, because then I'll get bullied for, hey, there you go, default character. And it's like, that's the psychology aspect of getting people to spend money in your game. Yeah, entry level Gundam is another insult that I love, just because it's so stupid.
That is good. That is good.
It's a good one, but it does those sorts of things. Like, that's the psychology that is being applied to monetization. Like, how can we make people really want stuff, but also feel bad for not spending money in the game?
It's kind of crazy that in the past you'd get bullied for playing games, or you'd get bullied for do like nerdy things like watching anime or whatever. Whereas now you get bullied for not doing that. Like, you get bullied for not doing it enough, and for not like paying enough money, or getting your parents to pay enough money for it.
Now you get bullied if your like KD ratio isn't like 3, and you don't have you haven't got the latest DLC for Fortnite or whatever. That's the psychology. That's the consensus building. That's the social engineering. That is these bubbles that are constructed. Again, people haven't evolved for this. I think games are going to evolve to be able to detect this sort of stuff, because people aren't happy. They see something like the new Saints Row, and they go, hold on a minute, this ain't right. What's going on here? It's because, yeah, the wheels are coming off the wagon. The rabbits, the hat that the rabbits get pulled out of it is falling to pieces now, and people can see. But also, just fundamentally, the games are just worse. So people feel like they're getting taken advantage of.
Well, and the
game is evolving like a really keen sense to say, you are scamming me. This is a scam. Don't buy this. That's what we're seeing right now, I think.
I think I've said this before, but the process by which people are hired in the games industry is remarkably similar to how the Conservative Party operates. And again, those decisions are starting to bear fruit. It's like, making games is really difficult. And so as you said, like, it's a lot easier. Like, what's easier, making another Overwatch game and like truly making a new game, or just Control-C, Control-V, new monetization system, and we'll throw in a couple of heroes? It's way easier to do that. And also, maybe they're incapable of making Overwatch because those people have all gone. That's literally what that Netflix article was about. Like, maybe the people making Halo aren't capable of making Halo because all the people who could make it are gone. And, if your leadership, people like Bonnie Ross are the best you can muster, somebody who just fucks up for, 14 years straight, that's the best you can do. Okay, maybe it's like, maybe you're incapable of making good products. This is great for us because eventually the industry is going to be full of so many people making so much bad shit, which is basically, it is where we're at, that it creates a tremendous opportunity because we can make great products. We actually want to as well, and we don't look at the challenge of making games as this, like, I don't know, what would you call it, like an inconvenience, like, oh, for fuck's sake, like we have to spend money and find talented people and, like, put our nose to the grindstone and try to figure out how to get around these problems, come up with solutions to problems. We actually, like, revel in that and enjoy it, and we want to push ourselves. We want to, I mean, take like battering Robot Champions and turning into Smash Punks. It's like we took something from mid to fucking awesome. It wasn't easy, and the job's not done, but we fucking did a tremendous job, and we did that in the most stressful time period in, like, human history, up until, I guess, like, now it's getting more stressful, but but at the time it was ridiculous. So that's a huge part of it, where it's like the industry is not going to be, it's at least the larger, like, double AAA, incapable of making good stuff. That's what we're starting to see. Not across the board, but I'd say, probably more, at least in the Western sphere, like, way the fuck more than 50% of studios are just incapable of producing stuff that's interesting. Or, like, they're running on, like, like Assassin's Creed. They've just been remaking that game for the past, like, 9. What, Assassin's Creed 1 came out when we were in uni. They've been making that game now for, like, 15 years. Like, they're just running off of the steam that kicked them off 10, 15 years ago. Sims 5 has been announced. Okay, it's just a continuation of The Sims. It's like nothing new is coming. Yeah, no new shit coming about, and even a lot of the stuff that is just sequels and Control C, Control Vs, they can't even do right. They keep fucking those up as well. So, yeah, all signs point towards continued downward trajectory. And I say, great, like, that's, we are games developers, so we benefit from that. But we're also gamers who don't like that there's just not really anything good to play, or the stuff that is good is compromised with shit monetization, or 30 FPS capped for no reason, like bad decisions. We want to see things get better, and so if that requires an early 80s level crash, like, yeah, bring it on. It's gonna be fucking great. We get content, we get to laugh, we get to be entertained, and then out of the ashes of that, actual good people will have to step up to the plate. The money men aren't going to go away. The spreadsheeters aren't going to go away, but they will be looking at their spreadsheets going, fuck, we're not making any more money. We're going to have to hire good people again. We're going to have to hire people who are actually the right people for the job. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the fair weather fans will abandon games because they can't extract any more oil from it for themselves. They never cared anyway, so they'll be out straight away. The glamour will go, and so yeah, they won't be interested anymore. It will be the die-hard fans and the proper core gamers and the passionate developers will stick around. They'll always be around. Those are the people that we are trying to appeal to because those are the people who built all of this anyway in the first place. There's lots of people like that, and those are our people. We want to appeal to them because they've made games that those sorts of people have made games that I really love, and I want to make games for them so that they can really love my games. So that it's almost like a giving back thing, and we also know that demographic. We know what they like. We know what they expect. We know what they get disappointed by, and we hope that. I mean, we should be able to satiate a lot of their desires. And if the trend line goes down for the AAA industry and the big developers and the main releases, the tentpole releases, that's good for us because there's gonna be a lot of disillusioned fans who will say, "Fine, this is the last one of these games I'm gonna play. I'm done now. It's just the same as the last 5 I bought, and I can't afford to buy those games anymore. I'm gonna look for something new." And I think there's gonna be a kind of mini renaissance where people like us will say, "Right, okay, I don't like the way that the wind's blowing, so let's Let's just make our own thing, stake our own claim, and we'll get some very interesting games that will, buck the trend, and then they will do very well, and you will then see these big AAA studios ape them and copy them, and then you'll end up in a sort of bloated situation again where I think the Battle Royale is a great example of this. As soon as that became a popular game mode, Epic just jumps in and everybody makes a Battle Royale mode. Counter-Strike has a Battle Royale mode, and now it's been done to death. It's because the unimaginative spreadsheet businessmen, they look out the window and they're like, what are the kids playing today? Oh, they're playing Battle Royale and it's making loads of money. Make me that. Make me that again, but we'll throw more money at it, and the shareholders will expect huge returns. Oh, it's a shit version of that game. Whoops. I don't understand games. I don't care. What's a shit game? Can there be a shit game? Can games be shit? Can games be exploitative and bad? I did it. Who knew? I just throw money at the problem
Yeah.
and expect to get 100 times return. Those are the people running the industry right now. And as soon as the industry goes, if they do crash the industry, they'll be like, I guess that no one plays games anymore. I'm going to go and now sell landmines or join. Yeah, I'm gonna get into another industry that I can just exploit and make billions of pounds from, because that's all I am. I'm just a tick that jumps around wherever the big bags of money are. That's all I'll do, and it doesn't matter what damage I leave in my wake.
Yep. Well, it's kind of ending on a black pill, but it is a white pill because
Don't be black pill.
Don't be black pilled. It's about the cycle. It's inevitable. Civilizations rise and fall, as do industries. It's everything is cyclical. It's why
Kali Yuga. That's where we are now.
Huh?
Kali Yuga.
Yeah.
The end cycle, but the end. What is the end? It's just the bit before the beginning.
The end is the beginning of the end is the beginning. Absolutely. All right. Let's wrap it up. This has been an Enemy Stream. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode.